What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. So OPEC Plus, which is Saudi Arabia, Middle Eastern countries, and Russia, which is the plus in OPEC Plus, announced that they want to continue to squeeze every dollar out of you and the rest of the world with their oil supplies. Even though we don't order oil anymore from Russia, this makes oil and gas prices around the world continue to stay higher for longer. Take a look here. Yeah, Saudi Arabia, Russia, and several OPEC Plus producers have extended their voluntary crude supply cuts until the end of June. Wow. And this is big news because this makes oil stay much higher than it actually should be. And this is a significant cut. Saudi Arabia alone has a 1 million barrels per day cut. Russia has about a 500,000 barrels per day cut. I think overall, OPEC Plus has about a 3 million barrels per day cut. This counteracts the U.S.'s all-time highs of oil production. You can see here, this is the U.S.'s chart of their oil production. This is from the EIA.gov. This charts their overall U.S. field production of crude oil. Believe it or not, the U.S. is right now producing more oil than they have ever produced ever in the history of the United States. You can see here that recently we have actually gone up and produced more oil than ever. So you can see we dropped significantly when the pandemic came, when the pandemic hit, and we have now surpassed that. You can see here in this top right corner, and we have now recently passed that, and we are now hitting all-time highs. However, with this is at around 13.3 million barrels per day. But when we have OPEC Plus having a 3 million barrel per day cut, that negates about 30% of our oil output. We are the #1 oil producer in the world, but OPEC Plus is the #2 oil producer in the world. So they're literally negating about 30% of our oil output. That's a significant cut. And this makes oil prices stay high, which affects gas prices and oil prices worldwide. Because remember, the price of oil here, WTI crude, Brent crude, Murban crude, and the natural gas, even gasoline, all these different things here are actually traded on a worldwide basis. These oil companies sell oil all over the world. They're not bound to only keep oil and gas only here in the United States. Even if they were, it actually might make gas go higher if they were not allowed to trade them on an overseas market. You can see here, gas here recently has actually gone up. The national average of gas prices here, $3.34 per gallon for regular. A month ago, it was $3.15 per gallon. So you can see we've gone up about 20 cents per gallon on a national average here in the last month. Diesel at about $4.05 at a national average. A month ago, $3.93. This is about the same as a year ago for regular, but a little bit cheaper for diesel. But you can see that these cuts make, if Saudi Arabia, Russia, and OPEC Plus were actually producing the 3 million barrels per day, and there was 3 million barrels more of oil, diesel, and natural gas, and all these different oils on the market, gas and oil and natural gas and all these different products would be much cheaper. You guys can let me know your thoughts here in the comments. And of course, we know that this is also helping fund Putin's war in Ukraine. And we also have kind of the Axis versus the ally, so to speak, because we have Russia teaming up with Saudi Arabia and China. China's been buying oil from Russia, and we continue to see all of them. And honestly, the U.S. on the other side, we're seeing Europe not buy oil from Russia anymore, and we're continuing to see the sides one versus the other. We also had the announcement here within the last few days that Sweden is now officially joining NATO as it clears the last hurdle and will be the 32nd state or country to join NATO. Sweden is exactly what the West needs to counter Putin's underhand tactics. Sweden, you can see here on the map, right next to Russia, Sweden and Finland have now just joined NATO here. And this is exactly what Vladimir Putin did not want. More countries to join NATO, especially along the Russia border. And the interesting fact about this here is that Sweden and Finland have historically been neutral. Actually, for many, many dozens, maybe even over 100 years here, going all the way back through world wars. And it was actually Vladimir Putin who actually forced them to join NATO and actually get some security because, for example, Sweden only has about 10 million people, which is actually significantly less than Ukraine. And when Sweden looks at, what was happening here to Ukraine, Ukraine had like 40 million people and was actually a much larger country here. And Ukraine is actually defending themselves pretty well here with the war going 2 years in. Russia thought that they would just bulldoze themselves over Ukraine and take over the country in a matter of days or a few weeks. But they had 40 million people. A country like Sweden with only 10 million people might not be able to defend themselves against Russia. But being in the hands of NATO with 31 other countries to help defend itself, Sweden and Finland quickly realized after they were being threatened by Russia with nuclear war, literally Russia, you can see headlines here, Russian embassy in Stockholm threatens Sweden and Finland over NATO ascension. You can see another one here. Putin issues fresh warning to Finland and Sweden on installing NATO infrastructure. And even before then, Swedes will be sent to their deaths if they join NATO, warns Moscow. The problem here is that the Swedes and the Finns realized that they couldn't defend themselves against Vladimir Putin with over 100 million people and nuclear weapons. Their only way to defend themselves was if they were in NATO with the help of 31 other countries. So after, 100 years of being neutral, Sweden and Finland realized that these nuclear threats of Vladimir Putin, that they could no longer be neutral. Because if you just look at Vladimir Putin's history, they're literally just trying to take over country after country after country. You look at Crimea, you look at Ukraine, you look at Belarus, you look at what they're trying to do and their plans and what they've actually done. If you were Sweden or Finland, what would you do? And here's the thing. Russia's done this before. They've actually invaded Finland before, back in 1939, 1940, at the beginnings of World War II, known as the Winter War. So they remember stuff like this, and Russia really doesn't change that much. And this is why a lot of people want to stop Russia and Vladimir Putin before they just try to keep taking over country after country after country. you know, the problem is, you know, the money involved with it. You know, that's obviously a problem. But the other problem is, you know, people remember Hitler, and he kept taking over country after country after country, and eventually that became, well, we know what happened there. So let me know your thoughts here in the comments. I'll keep you up to date here with everything happening on a daily basis. Thank you so much for liking and sharing these videos. Make sure to subscribe down below so you don't miss out on new videos. Click here to see what most people have no idea what's happening, or click here to see what is happening on March 11th. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next video.